Hi, we're going to get started with our next conversation. If everyone could quickly take your seats. We'll be back to cocktails in about half an hour or so. So, how's everyone feeling? You having fun? You feel a little bit smarter than when you woke up this morning? Well, we have, as I described, we created this program called the Latimer Fellowship Program almost 5 years ago. We've had wonderful support from a partner named Carmichael Roberts. He's a partner at Breakthrough Energy Ventures, which is Bill Gates' $3 billion plus climate fund. And we're partners with a group called the Edison Awards. And I wanted to pay respect to my partners at the Edison, Frank Bonafiglia, our Latimer team, Tish Futrell, Gordon Knox, and again, a special thanks to Carmichael for giving us the runway to be able to build what we hope to become a unicorn ranch. I'd like to introduce you to some of the unicorns in training. Some of them are well on their way. We've got a group of 25 fellows in the program as of now, and we were fortunate to have 6 of them here today, and a new one will be coming along, Miss Ballard. I would like for each of you to just in a minute or so each, briefly introduce yourselves, and then you're going to meet Inayah Bashir, who works with Van and his team at the Dream Machine Academy, who's going to take us through a bit of a fishbowl exercise. So we'll start with Fox. Thank you.
Okay, well, first, thanks for the introduction, John, and also just thanks to everyone for coming. It's so wonderful to be here. And so my name is Fox Harrell, and as a brief introduction, so I'm the founder and director of the MIT Center for Advanced Virtuality. I'm a professor there. I've been teaching there since 2010 now, and I'm in 3 different units. I'm in the Computer Science Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, the Institute for Data Systems and Society, and the Comparative Media Studies program. So a lot of hats there. And John asked if we would say just a little bit about how what we do connects to the idea of moving from being a consumer to being a world builder. So I'll just do that.
Hey, Fox, real quick, I'm going to actually have my guys who are standing because they're going to leave off, and then we'll finish the quick intros, and then after that, we'll go ahead, Shmi.
Okay, so that's the intro.
I'm so sorry, dude.
Coming back to him.
Hey, I'm Shamik, actor. I'm mostly known as an actor, but I'm extremely passionate about measurable impact, ownership of our IP, and circulating that dollar, really measuring it. So yeah, that's my short of what I'm doing.
Woo!
Very modest, yes. Very modest. John Passmore, I'm the founder of Latimer AI. We built an inclusive large language model that's used generally in higher education, some in healthcare. We have big plans. It's been actually a very good year, considering the administration and lots of other headwinds, but all is heading in the right direction.
Hey everybody, Courtney Wizard, founder of Assemble.fyi here. Very much to the previous panel, I was a kid from Mississippi, went to HBCU, fell in love with Wall Street, and I remember always wanting to go to Harvard Business School and being on a flight and reading Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun. And the key thing that was really impressive about Reginald Lewis was he was the first and only person to get into Harvard Law School also without formally applying. And so HBS has a campus in Europe, and as I was reading that book, I remember my best friend and I were arguing because I had lent it to him because it was such an amazing book. And when he gave it back to me before I took my flight to Europe, his girlfriend's dog had ate the book up. And he was like, don't be mad at me, just focus on going to school and get your Reginald F. Lewis on. And lo and behold, at 22, I got into the school without applying. And I was like, holy shit. So it's interesting because you go to this HBCU in the South, and then you go to this prestigious, I don't even know if it can even be considered Ivy League because it's based in Europe, and it's just crazy. And you see the difference. And so my life mission has been to bring that experience that I had at one of the most advanced, expensive business schools in the world to the masses. So we partner with the world's greatest leaders. And you can think of it as a masterclass, but now how do we delineate this and bring it down to a level where it can be introductory college courses, graduate courses, and C-suites, giving everybody access to it, whether it's HBCUs or it's the refugees in Afghanistan or the women in Sudan. So that's like our global mission. And it's really to democratize and make sure that premium access to education is relying this water.
Thanks, guys. Let Lisa, Titus, we'll go around and then we'll participate.
Hello everyone, my name is Lisa Dyson. I am the founder of a company called Air Protein, and we looked at the food system and wanted to change it. And we looked at what NASA did in the space program in the 1960s and 70s, where they asked the question, how do you make food without acres and acres of farmland? And you can do it by growing cultures with air in a matter of 24 hours. And so we're commercializing that now. Protein from air.
Hello everybody, my name is Titus Walker. I'm CEO and founder of the Ultimate Endgamers League, or UEL for short. We're coined as the UFC of video games. So we developed a video game esports league that kind of turned into a lot of different things. So now we teach kids how to build PCs, develop games, all through video games, esports, and kind of developing an educational model within video games, which is where the kids are right now. So.
Oh my goodness. So I don't know if this is the one. Can you guys hear me?
Okay, there we go. Karla, Ballard, John knows I'm a super fan because whenever you can hold space for the most beautiful souls to come together and begin to think out the box and then have intention to manifest it, it's one of the most amazing moments I think we as a community need, especially during these times. So, born and raised, go Birds. I'm a Philly girl, so I'm a fan of 100 all the time. And I think it's just so exciting to be in a space where, I ran for the vice presidency of the United States with Rob Pierce, who co-founded something called Tether. And so I've been in the banking space. I kind of grew up professionally in the banking community, the first state of Delaware. And I've always had a fascination with currency and tech. So when blockchain came into manifestation, I was like, holy shizzy, if this is not the core of who I am. And I have just absolutely adored being able to work with some of the most brilliant minds in AI and in blockchain to be able to build HUMN. And it's actually got a period next to it. So HUMN period is what I call into existence, recognizing and not being naive that AI is real. What we've built is an opportunity to give you a human passport to start your own microeconomy. So that instead of waking up to Instagram every morning, you're scrolling through your own economy feed with your social trusted network. So you take that URL, you're sharing it with your colleagues, they upload their skills, and you have your own Uber, your own Fiverr, your own TaskRabbit, and your own Upwork, all on demand. So I'm thrilled to be here, and I can't wait for the conversation.
Thank you guys so much. I feel honored to be on stage with such impressive people and also very well-dressed people. My name is Inayah Bashir. I am an Afrofuturist who is committed to making sure that our world stays socially and emotionally intelligent and actually becomes more emotionally intelligent as we enter this age of exponential technology. I'm a futurist because I like to study the trends. I like to study the past and the present and determine how I can make actions to co-create the future. I'm an Afro in front of that because I think that returning to African indigenous knowledge is essential for disrupting those trends that aren't working and establishing who we are again. I actually heard today that, you know, Black people have been doing the tech thing since the talking drum, and I felt like that was really resonant for me, and bringing that back into this new godlike technology that we're facing today feels really important. So you've already heard from our wonderful panelists about their expertise, and today we want to have a conversation of how we can help people move from being consumers to creators. Right now, a lot of us interact with the future as users, players, consumers, but being a creator is a completely different skill set. And we have a lot of people up here who know a lot about imagination, play, and participation. Our narratives and our systems are where we learn the most. It's not in the classroom, it's in the stories that we choose, it's in the games that we play, it's in the systems that fund those stories and those games. So I want us to have a conversation not only up here, these are our facilitators. Everyone in the room is a part of this conversation, so you don't have to keep your question to the end. So if you have a question, if you have a comment, interject, raise your hand. If you agree, make a sound. We like that, we like that. So I want to kick us off by asking the question of, why do you think people get stuck in being consumers? So we're going to start with the problem and give it some time, and then we're going to spend the rest of the time on the solution. But I wanted to start there. Why do people get stuck in being consumers?
I would love to start. So I've been talking a lot. I travel a lot for this gaming thing, and I've always found in my research, which I do a lot of it, Black people are normally afraid of whatever the new thing is. They're afraid to dive into it. They keep the kids away from it. They you know, I had this like thing where I read like old time magazines. It's like a thing of mine. I don't know. I collect them, so I'm reading from the 20s.
Me too.
Time magazine. Okay, there we go. And some of the trends that I see is a lot of times that is the trend. It's you're afraid of it. So AI comes out and it's like, I don't want my kid touching that thing. Or, you know, in my case, it's video games. I don't want my kid playing these video games. And what I always find my job is to not teach the next generation, but teach the past generations. Because if they took the time to actually dig into what the kid is doing in the video game, they would see that the kid is learning in that video game. And what's being taught can actually be enhanced with the right leadership. And so while you're trying to keep your kid away from the thing that is the future, they're not going away from it. The next generation, 98% of them play video games. It's 3.3 billion gamers on the planet right now. And it's a $300 billion industry that it's bigger than movies and music combined. It's bigger than any sport in history. And it's set to double from 300 billion to 600 billion by 2030. So when we talk about equity from consumers, that is a consumer industry. And it wasn't until my wife said something while I was playing the video game. She said, you should turn that into a business. And it had never clicked. I always saw it as a consumer industry. But it took a woman to say it that helped me understand, okay, you're right. This is a business. I consume it, but it can be something where we can build equity. And so taking the gaming industry and understanding that there's $300 billion up for grabs in the next 4 years, how do we take a piece of it? And so I forgot the question. I think I answered it, but ultimately, that's what I, you know, grabbing a piece of that industry and taking the consumer and turning them into equity holders, business owners, all within the landscape that can control education. It can control every piece. It's 98% of them are doing it, and it's how they consume everything: movies, music, all of it.
From what I just want to say, from what I'm hearing of your answer is that Van has this thing that he says is that Black people can be threat sensitive, but we're not opportunity sensitive.
Boom.
So
Yeah.
I think that's
the second you see it, you run. And that's, I mean, it's in all the movies, you see it, you run first. As soon as you see the first person running, you run too. We're not the ones that hey, let's check it out. What is it? What could it be, right? That's the white people that do that, right? Like, oh, what is it? What's that sound, right? Like, no, but ultimately, like, every now and then we should check out the sound and maybe there's something there, right? Like maybe there is something for us to actually be able to build upon. So yeah, I'll put it down.
I was just gonna say, the first thing that comes to me is it's a little bit of fear, and it's a little bit of lack of having access to a more expansive network. I was telling this story to a friend of mine. I'm part of this group called Summit Series, and it's out of Utah. And we used to host events in different spots throughout the US, but I'm like one of their old school folks, right? So I decided one day to invite a few of my friends. And they were like, Karla, what are you doing? You're getting us out the Beltway. And I was like, okay, well, Jeff Johnson, you know, Sylvia Rohn, some names you might know, Ben Jealous. And I know, Van, you know these folks well, right? So I said, hey guys, let's go to a mountain that's about 8,500 feet above, you know, sea level. Let's go hang out with some of my friends. And they were like, oh, hell no. Hell, like when I say no, and then finally they broke down. And it was one of the most amazing experiences, and that was probably about 12 years ago. And they come back and they're telling me about their network and how much bolder they're feeling about doing things. So part of it is, I think we were taught to fear, unfortunately, right? That is just some shizzy we have to deal with. And it is psychological. However, the moment you break through that and you just walk in the belief that I've got this, we are unstoppable. I will never forget this one moment. Modi and I were on a panel, Modi and I were on a panel years ago with Pitney Bowes, and it was me, Atala Shabazz, Ambassador Atala Shabazz, and Modi and Chuck D, and this moment that Modi turned to me and he said, you know we own cultural capital. We own it. And because we own it, we need to walk in that understanding that we can absolutely own and operate this country and this globe more than what we realize. And that was a drop the mic moment for me. And because of blockchain, we can now tokenize every form of asset. So I am a proud capitalist. I just call myself a full spectrum capitalist, because now we can monetize and value that wonderful gift that we've always had. It's a different form of currency.
What I love about that is that the fear is creating a boundary of our imagination.
Right.
And I think the idea, like Black people, we do own cultural capital. Like we can dictate so much of culture, but I grew up being told we need doctor, lawyer, engineer. And then I didn't see that, oh, well, if I wanted to be entertainment, I don't necessarily have to be an actress or a singer. I could be the person behind the scenes doing the business for the actress or the singer. And like, we're never taught the ways that there's a full system for us to come into that. And that becomes a boundary of the imagination. It's like, I'm not going out there. I'm not gonna like have an unpredictable job, you know? But there is a lot more available. Someone from the audience?
Yeah, I don't need a mic, I got a loud voice.
Come on.
So I think what really the issue is that it's not limiting imagination, it's limiting curiosity.
Yes.
Because if you limit your curiosity, in place will be fear. Because you are not curious enough to walk into the unknown. So the imagination being coupled with that, with curiosity and imagination, is what pushes you further. A lot of things in our culture is like, you know, doctor, engineer, like you said, those are areas of where you are put in a box and you know the parameters, so it's safe.
Yeah.
So whenever you step outside that and you're like thinking with the what if and not being afraid of what will happen, and being a little bit more confident in yourself or just curious. I think artists are the reason why curiosity thrives and lives, is because you want to always look from a different perspective. Now, for the people that are afraid about different perspective, you just got to get them into a fun activity of their own self-interest to push them further to go into the curiosity.
Yes.
I want to say, a lot of times I meet parents and the first thing the parents ask is how can I get my kid to to stop doing this, stop playing this game, or stop, you know, it's always like the first thing I get as a like gamer CEO. And I always have to like put things into perspective for them. And the first thing I ask is like, do you like sports? Yeah, I love football. Okay, what do you like? What's your favorite team? Oh, this. Okay, and you love watching it? Yes. But you know, my kid, he just loves watching other people play video games. Doesn't even make sense. He's either playing the game or watching someone else play the game. Okay, cool. We're in a suite at the Commanders game. What are we doing right now? Who's playing that game? Is it you or is it them, right? So you're sitting here watching someone else play a game, complaining to me about your son watching someone else play a game. The only difference is you paid thousands of dollars to be here, and he does it for free. So really, what is this, right? Like, it's that tap. Instead, sit with your son and watch with him. You'll learn what he's learning. Sit with your daughter and watch with her. You'll learn what she's learning. And there's so much to that. But it requires a level of curiosity, like she said. You have to be curious about what it is that they're learning.
I have to feedback about that. I teach STEAM classes, so right now I'm teaching TK to code video games. I get a lot of pushback, right? I'm like, this is how they're gonna make money. Like, this is like, and I tell them every day, this is a job. When I teach them arts classes, when I teach drama, I go, you don't have to be the actress.
We gotta talk.
Do you know this is a job? Do you know just taking pictures and making sure everything is the same is a job? It blows their minds, right? Like, it blows their minds. But when they're watching video games, because I was a little annoyed and they just watch it, just play it, and they like watch me. I go, but it's critical thinking and it's strategy.
Yes.
And then I'm like, okay, so now like, how do they do that? And like, how do we get in the code and do that? Like,
We have to talk.
right, get me done.
Do you want to say something?
There was
Another comment? No, go ahead.
There's the shortest, I think it's the shortest parable in the Bible, is a man saw a treasure in the field. So he buried the treasure and bought the field. And as I'm listening, I think there's definitely something around curiosity. Once you get past curiosity of wanting to do something, I think there's also this challenge where it's around business model, it's around strategy, it's about how do you not get so unfocused about what you want to do once you see a treasure, that you tell everybody who doesn't really value it the way that you do, who won't come along with you and support you, but they're really more now worried about them getting the treasure. How do you take the time to bury the treasure, right? How do you take the time, invest and buy the field so that you have the treasure and you can do with it what you and yours want to? So that's kind of my observation. I have a question for any of you. Have you had that experience, and if so, what has it been like? And
Forget the treasure. Forget the treasure. Focus on every other person that will be impacted by you finding that treasure. And then it doesn't matter if somebody finds it first. They may not dig as far as you would be willing to do. Forget the treasure. The treasure's gonna be there, right? Like, always focusing on, if I don't get there first, then maybe this, then maybe, forget the treasure. Focus on the impact, the people. If you focus on the people, the treasure comes. It finds you. It jumps out of the ground and walks over to you. Forget the treasure. The treasure's there. You know it's there. You know where it is. Whether you bury it further or not, you still have to do the work. So forget the treasure and go chase the impact and the people. I'll stop now.
I just want to piggyback on that, because what that brought up for me was the person that's buried the treasure is afraid that they're going to lose love.
Yes.
And they want to make sure they do the thing that's right. They want to make sure they don't lose this thing. Like, it's there, and God comes back or whatever, person comes back. And I think I have in my family I have a cousin who he was the youngest son, so he had the lawyer and the finance guy and the engineer in the family, so they were already there. And then he was the youngest son, and he had a safety net where he could go out and explore and be risky, and he lost it all. He did, but he had that love. He had the family there that supported him, and now he's the CEO of his brothers and sisters that are older than him. And so I think that's something that is helpful. And people get stuck because they want that security. And if you have that love and that safety net, and I think about my dad, there's people like that need that safety net. My dad was a different person altogether. He was at some, early in his career, he was president of a chain of 55 hair salons. Soul Scissors, if there's people old enough to know that. But he was just a risk taker. So it's just your capacity to take risks, because if you're gonna go after, if you're gonna try to be a builder, not just a consumer, then you might lose it all. And he did too. He went up and so for me, I got that training from him to see all the ups and downs of going after my dreams and entrepreneurship and all that, and it's gonna be okay. That's what I saw. Woo!
Hell yeah.
Let me just,
I want to give Titus 1 second because they're giving me the countdown and I want to get to the solutions and
So one of the things I wanted to do was also just return to the premise of the question, which is, how do we become producers and be consumers? And because we're here in Austin, I want to give a shout out to Professor Craig Watkins, who teaches at UT Austin here in town. Because one of the keynotes I saw him give, and he's a brother too, and he said something like, we're already the producers. So when you look at what a lot of people are doing online, on TikTok and gaming spaces and so forth, a lot of the work that's being produced is coming from young women, people of color, and a really diverse group of content creators. But there's a Carlton dance problem that you might know about. Yeah, so who knows the Carlton dance from Fresh Prince? People know the Carlton dance. Well, you know that Epic Games was sued because they just imported it into Fortnite without paying the creator of the dance. So it's not that we're not creators, but it goes back to the first panel in a certain way. It's what kind of access do we have, what kind of equity, what kind of capital, what kind of control over what we produce, and much more. And so from there, I'm going to say, why did I get interested in production and what I see as a part of the path towards addressing this? I'm going to start with the kind of things, lessons I got from my father. So this is going back to the earlier panel, because he was a lifelong educator. When I was a kid, elementary school teacher, went into administration, principal. Before he passed, he became the VP of a national charter school district in charge of half the country. And coming from Homewood, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, one of the things he liked to say about his life was, not bad for a ghetto guy. No, but one of the things, so he always taught us about roots. That means not just that we come from Gullah people before Pittsburgh, off the coast of South Carolina, but he always wanted to and dreamed to go back to find where were our roots, West Africa and more. And he never had a chance to go there, but he did have one trip abroad, and that was with me. We were traveling in India. And so this is something about the first India. It's just two quick things. One is there was a young girl who was begging. She had a baby with her. I mean, she looked like a baby. She looked like she might have been 14, 15 years old. And everyone was saying, don't give her money, don't give her money, don't talk to her. You're just going to attract attention. People want to take your money. But he just looked at her and talked to her like a person. And so she went from a look that was abject, just trying to, just needing money to survive, and like an equal human in conversation by the end of it. And another place we were at was like a kind of like an outdoor museum type place. And I never saw something like this. A group of kids just started lining up, and one by one, they just started hugging him. I was like, why are these kids just hugging him? They felt that educator energy, and one of the things he always said to us, he had a lot of things he liked to say, but it was always, don't think in terms of hierarchy. Sometimes he'd say it in like a funny way, like everybody's butt stinks, he liked to say. Another way he liked to say it was, who owns you? You own you. And so I think to all those, those kids who are producing content, having that sense of ownership, I think it translates into a lot of what was being talked about in the first panel. And then I just want to add one last quick point, which was, how do I do it in my work at MIT and beyond? Narrative, that's one way. When beginning this kind of work. I mean, I was interested in AI since high school. I mean, I grew up, another thing, people mention the South, I grew up in the South too, San Diego. Southwest. Yeah. And so as I was skateboarding around, seeing science, special interest group in AI. This is like in the late 80s, 90s, early 90s. So I want to be there. I'd go there, I'd be the only kid, only black person, give me cookies, things, but I was learning at that age. But when I went to Carnegie Mellon as an undergrad, people weren't thinking about it in the same way. Because they were thinking like how we could create like sort of some kind of sentient being or something that that basically solve problems. Where I was thinking like, couldn't we use it to adapt for different cultural perspectives? Couldn't we tell stories, different emotional tone, different metaphors, different learning styles? So that was one. And they were like, why would you do that at that point? And then the second is just adapting these technologies to ourselves. I call it the avatar dream. That is, everybody wants to use the computer to be whoever, whatever they want to be. But it's not enough just to have an avatar to look like something. You actually need to know culture, to model cultural phenomena, and more, so people can really feel that that represents them. So that's basically what I do in the work that I do. Build video games, build VR systems, build interactive stories, AI-based storytelling, all for those kinds of purposes of bringing the culture, the humanity, that compassion that my father brought in, the sense of self-ownership, and that sense of being a learner and doer. Who you are is not a deficit, it's an advantage in doing this kind of work.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, and I think it's a perfect segue into the last section. We've just been given an additional 5 minutes, so that means we have 8 minutes for all of us to think about what is the future that we can create. So imagine right now, we all can create a community, a space, where we encourage people to be creatives, we encourage people to be creators. What systems do we need in place? What narratives do we need in place? I recently got the opportunity to meet a man named Peter Diamandis. Some of you might know him. He's a very popular technologist. He used to build rockets. He's putting out a book that's called We Are as Gods. And it's really interesting because his whole thesis is, oh, we have godlike technology now. We can solve all these problems that were previously seen as godlike. And because of that, we now need new symbols. Because technology is increasing at such a rapid rate that we have what he calls psychic destabilization. And he's saying, okay, so now we need new archetypes, new stories to help us process that. My thesis in response to that is that if you go back to African stories, we already have the archetypes, we just need to remember them. And so that would be my 2 cents of like what narratives need to be told. We need narratives, new narratives that tell us that we already have immense power as humans, and it's always been our responsibility to take care of our environment, to wield great power. So I'm posing it to our panelists here and to the room. What narratives do you think we need? What systems do you think we need in place? And then how are you already building them?
Yeah, I'll just kick this off really quickly, being respectful of time. I think at the end of the day, there has been a reality check, and that's why I built what I built. Because folks need to wake up and start feeling productive, number one. Every day, all day, if they so choose. They also need to have a way to monetize their life, right? There needs to be absolute acknowledgement of what AGI agents are doing, that's great. But we also have, having been in 166 cities across the United States, helping to install broadband adoption, I know what we're dealing with in our housing developments, and there's a reality check. Because if we brought Antoine and those that I work with in Congress Park right here, they'd be like, I'm so happy y'all are having this conversation. Hats off to each and every one of you. But when are you gonna help me understand when I have access to an actual job that's gonna pay me enough to feed my children? Because there is a reality check that my hope and prayer would be that takes care of the basics first, which is why we created the economy fee and a way for people to get access to gigs, because the gig economy is the largest growing industry in our labor force right now. It is growing leaps and bounds because of structural unemployment to AI. So that's reality check number one. I would say the other piece is being able to also, and that's why we called it the human passport, to recognize that there's health issues. There's some other basic issues. And so for us to be able to partner with people who are doing amazing things in that space, and a lot of this is, because I identify as Afro-Indigenous European, I love that indigeneity is rising again. I could not be happier. So we have to give people easy online access to these things. Last thing is the tokenization, right, for the blockchain. I'm not going to go into it now, but just know, you know how I get excited about this. It is one of the most fundamental, and you never heard me talk about cryptocurrency because that's what this is not about. This is about tokenizing those assets that we've not been able to tokenize before, but now we can. Woo!
You can go, then you can go out.
I want to answer your question. So my name is Karen Palmer, and I'm the storyteller from the future. And I've come back to enable people to survive what is to come through the power of storytelling. So I create films that enable you to experience the future today, so you can see your role in it and potentially activate your agency, so you can have a practice in my simulations. I was warning people before with my XR experiences. I'm in competition at South by, but I had to pivot a few years ago because warning isn't enough. I need to prepare people for what's to come. So I create experiences that enable people to reprogram their subconscious behavior. Because on the subconscious level, we are programmed into this systemic system, and we need to reprogram our psyche to get out of it. And the same way that they're using storytelling and propaganda and media to kind of project upon us to keep us at this level, I'm using that same strategy, but to empower you so that we can start to experience these new realities. So just to go back to your question, imagination, play, and participation in the future. We don't realize, many of us, that we are already actively participating in our future. We're just doing it unintentionally and subconsciously. And it's really important for us to move away from that. And it's not an easy thing to do, and much of it is subconscious. So that's why I use media and entertainment to really connect with you in that way, because we've kind of run out of time now, and the future is here in the present. And it's really up to us. It's not up to anybody else, and it's up to us to see ourselves do it, and not just believe, but know we can do what we need to do. And what you need to do is different from what I need to do. But we haven't any time left to really make that happen. So that's why I make my experiences, so that you can practice this in the present, so that you know what you're going to be doing tomorrow.
Thank you.
Practice is everything.
I guess what I want to say is kind of like adding to the question, right? Which is like, we're talking about AI a lot, and I think that AI as a tool has many uses, but I think the way that it's being used, right, is kind of just letting it do all the work. We're all a part of a culture that is constantly bastardized, constantly stolen from. So what are we doing to protect ourselves? Because just like you said in that Fortnite problem, you know, it was like they took the Carlton dance, they took the Shiggy, they took all that, and then they gaslight black people. It was like, oh no, it's a Fortnite dance. What do you mean? Or when they did the Harlem Shake videos, and people were like, yo, this used to be a black thing. It was like, no, that's from the YouTube thing. And we're constantly seeing, even now on TikTok, it's like, it's Gen Z slang. It's like, no, that's AABE, and now you're rebranding. So what happens when we are putting our artistic, culture out into this language learning machine, and people are learning it via the output they're getting, and now they're saying, oh no, that's a ChatGPT thing. They're taking our stories, they're rebranding it, and they're putting themselves out of it and trying to separate us from it. And I think, I'm gonna be like straight up, like I'm someone who's not excited about AI because I see too many white people at the top, and I don't like putting my creativity in their hands because I've had it. I used to work for a show called That Midnight, and I would point out things that Black Twitter was doing. I'd be like, yo, this is funny, we need to do it, and they'd tell me, no, no, no. And then 6 months later, when white people on Twitter was doing it, that's when we put it in the show. Black people, we've always been the blueprint. We've always been ahead of the game. So now that we're working with these models that are used to kind of learn off of us, what are we doing to protect ourselves and our culture from that?
I'll tell you what I'm doing. We run camps starting at age 8. We work with the government, we do Parks and Rec programming. But what we do is we take these kids, they sign up in droves because we just call it a gaming camp. So in their mind, they're gonna go play Fortnite, right? But they show up, and the first thing we do, we got a bunch of pieces of PC, and we say, all right, you guys wanna play the game? First we gotta build a PC. And now they're motivated to build that PC. Then, okay, you wanna play the game? Now we gotta troubleshoot the PCs. So they start troubleshooting the PCs and learn how to do that. Oh, okay, now you gotta learn to build the game itself, because otherwise we don't got no games to play. Right? So now they learn how to build the game. Okay, now we're going to teach them about branding. Well, how does this branding work? How do you make sure you protect your brand? How do you make sure you develop IP and then protect that IP so you can sell it? Because otherwise, you can't. If you aren't protecting the IP, it's not your dance. It doesn't matter that you came up with it if you don't have the IP behind it. That's what happened to Latimer. Latimer didn't have the IP. He couldn't get it. Right? We can get it. We don't have the same excuse that Latimer had. We can get the IP all day, every day. We just need to educate ourselves and educate our children on how to do it, right? So as we take them through these steps, then we say, we call the camp Building Esports. And all we do is teach them every piece of the industry, which is every industry. When you think about what gaming is, it's branding, videography, it's photography, it's graphic design, it's music, it's art, it's storytelling. That's what a video game is. It's everything. It's every piece of the digital landscape. We teach them all of those aspects and how to protect them so that they can learn to create. But then when they create, they learn how to protect that creation so that as they move on, they can sell the creation. And we help them sell it because we have the marketplace to sell it on. So ultimately what I'm doing is taking the $300 billion that's coming in the next 4 years and saying, we want our piece. I'm gonna give it to our children so that they can have their piece. I'm gonna take mine too, but they're gonna have theirs too. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm doing.
Thank you so much. We have to wrap up, but please let's continue the conversation after the session. Find any of us. Let's all talk.
Yes.
Thank you.